Welcome to Uxbridge Beat, the podcast where we feature the who's who of Uxbridge, Ontario. My name is Jennifer Neville-Campsell.
And I'm Scott Campsell. In previous episodes, we've had the opportunity to interview members of our local council, and in this episode, we've had the good fortune to learn about the lady who holds it all together at the town hall.
Kristi Honey is the Chief Administrative Officer for the Township of Uxbridge, and if that position is unfamiliar to you, rest assured you're not the only one. This was a very educational episode for the both of us, and we are happy to share with you some insight into this extremely important and eclectic position here in our town.
Kristi is truly a down-to-earth, kind-hearted person who is eager to make Uxbridge the best town that it can be and is working diligently to make that happen under her watch.
Uxbridge Beat may have actually found the true beat of Uxbridge in Kristi's heart. Kristi Honey, welcome. We're so glad you're with us. You are the Chief Administrative Officer for the Township of Uxbridge. What does that mean?
So it's my pleasure to be council's one employee. And so it means the strategy and will of council is my responsibility to execute across the community. And so I help council set strategic priorities based off of emerging risks, and they in turn define the strategic plan and set the budget.
I have 14 duties and responsibilities that came with your position summary. You cover everything in 14. I'm not going to say them all. There's lots of things going on, but a lot of it is like being a mom, manage, mentor, nurture, support, and work closely, blah, 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 and then maintain positive and proactive relations and do all the things, attend all the meetings, principal negotiator. Like, there's a lot of stuff here that is really intense, but also really diverse. So speak to us about the diversity of the position.
It's actually one of the things that attracted me to the job. I'm 25 years in IT, so I call myself a recovering IT girl. And it was the administration that attracted me to the position and the variety. So one day I'm talking to the fire chief about the aerial truck, and the next day I'm talking to community services about the design of a playground. It's a very varied position, and you really get your hands into the community, which I find incredibly rewarding. Also, by being in a lower tier municipal government, it means that the time between strategy and planning and execution and implementation is very short. And so you get to see the meaningful work that you plan actually get implemented and live within the community pretty quickly.
So back that up. How did you start doing this? Were you living in town prior to?
No, I live in Ashburn,
Okay.
so just on the border. And actually, my mom worked at the Uxbridge Cottage Hospital when I was a kid. And so I got really connected to the Uxbridge community through that. And this is where we shop. This is where we play. This is where we took our kids to the park. And I just felt a strong connection to the Uxbridge community in particular. And this job came to me 3 different times. So at the time, I was the CISO for Ontario Power Generation, which means the head of cyber and IT security for the nuclear power plants, renewable generation, and corporate. And the first time someone sort of passed this job posting to me, I was in the thick of a very big project, and so the timing wasn't right. And then the second time, I was starting to think I might be interested. And the third time, the project had been done and the timing was right. And I met with the mayor and council and just got really keen on the variety of work, as you said.
That was only shortly before COVID hit. Is that right for the timing?
You got it.
Okay, so November, I think you had told me previous of 2019.
December.
Yeah. Only a few short weeks later, we get into a worldwide pandemic. Talk to us about how you navigated that.
So ironically, one of the biggest requirements in preparing for the pandemic required technology implementation. And so that's my background, is digital transformation. And so I was actually in the UK in February of 2020, and I saw everybody wearing masks on the subway and started to think, if this is hitting the London borders, it's going to hit Canada too. And so when I got back from that trip, I said to the mayor, I foresee a supply chain issue when it comes to laptops and tech. I want to do a mass order and get ahead of it all. And so we actually started our implementation of moving everyone to being able to work remotely in February of 2020. And then, of course, it was the end of March, middle to end of March, where we were mandated to do so. And we had already had all of our laptops and technology live. And I think we may be one of the only Ontario municipalities that didn't need to cancel a committee meeting or a council meeting. Everybody was trained and prepared, and we kept the business moving.
Is your job a termed position? So starting in 2019, is it open-ended?
It's open-ended, so it's not a contract. Some CAO positions are, but mine's not.
How long do you foresee yourself in this position?
Wow, that's a great question. I get asked that a lot. I love what I do. I am having so much fun. I have no interest in a change. There's still a lot I want to accomplish. And so I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon.
Your previous job with Ontario Power Generation, you were a cybersecurity expert.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means I was the head of the team responsible for basically planning and making sure that we're prepared to protect the institution. It meant that we were working on the operations. So we had a whole team monitoring and assessing threats. We had a whole team that when the threats actually hit us, we would respond to them. There were over 100,000 attempted breaches a day.
A day?
Mm-hmm.
100,000 attempted breaches per day.
That's right.
Do you know where these attempted breaches came from?
All over the world, and some areas more so than others. And so part of my job was working with CSIS and going to Ottawa and working with the head of the Canadian team responsible for protecting our borders, because we were responsible for, of course, the nuclear power plants, which is considered critical infrastructure protection. So it was a 24/7, 365-hour job, and the hackers didn't care if it was Christmas Day or if I was in Paris with my daughter. Very inconsiderate.
How does that translate now over to CAO of Uxbridge? Is this a 24/7, 365-day job?
So certainly I am always on and always prepared, and I have my phone with me at all times, including when I travel. However, I have wonderful work-life balance. It's given me time back to pursue my hobbies and my passions and to volunteer into the community, which is really key pillar in terms of my values. That's why I wouldn't ever think about leaving. I'm just having so much fun, and I get to do the things that I love.
So in other words, there aren't as many cybersecurity threats to Mayor Dave as there might be for the Ontario Power Generation.
No comment.
Okay.
But one thing that's kind of cool, and you sort of asked the question, so I want to comment on it, is the EF2 tornado that hit Uxbridge in 2022. I was responsible as the head of the Emergency Operations Center. So I was the head of the response to our community response. And it is incredible how much cyber emergency responsiveness and leading the head of a cyber emergency for critical infrastructure protection translates almost 100% over to a weather emergency. So when we're thinking about cyber emergencies, we're thinking about the grid going down. Well, of course, when a tornado hit, the grid goes down. And so it was interesting how transferable all of those skills and all of that experience just migrated over to leading the emergency response to the tornado.
And with that, what do you think your or the council's or the township's biggest success was in that navigation?
Communication. We had a very good, well-rehearsed, trained team. So that's obviously essential. In fact, I had mandated by May of 2022, May 5th, I think it was, that all of my team had all of their emergency response training current. And that was a fluke because, of course, the tornado hit May 21st. But a lot of that came from, again, sort of my cyber experience. It's like, you know, a pound or an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But everything in a cyber response is the same as a tornado response. The greatest success was in our communication, and the council was essential to that, getting out into each of their wards, communicating with their residents, finding out what they needed, getting water out, finding anyone who was vulnerable or in need, getting services connected to them. And then, of course, working with our local paper, so the Cosmos. That was a tremendous success. So we worked with the Cosmos to do an early release of the newspaper and get that into the hands of the residents, because as much as we had internet and we could push messages out, most of the population didn't have generators, and so a lot of their electronics had died, and so they couldn't receive the messages we were pushing out.
We've got a diagram here of all of the things that are underneath you, but could you maybe detail it a little bit? What are you overseeing? So you're saying my team was totally prepared for emergencies. Well, who's on your team?
Each of the department heads report directly into me. So I have the fire chief who reports into me, the director of community services, who is also the CEO of the library. I have the director of legislative services, who's also our clerk, director of planning and development, so that's building and planning, director of bylaw and animal control, which includes the animal shelter. I have the treasurer, who reports directly into me, and the director of public works.
That hence the 14-point explanation of your job. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're having to manage all sorts of people and to do it in a positive and courteous way. There was one thing that I had seen on the, I wonder if I can pull it up. Able to develop effective relationships, strong, approachable, and open communication skills, experiencing and managing a budget between 7.5 million and 30 million. All sorts of minimum requirements leading into this. But then you also have to motivate others. You can build rapport. You can assess what motivates different types of people. Apparently now you need to be a psychologist as well. Give regular and meaningful feedback in effective ways, but you also have to present the unvarnished truth in appropriate and helpful manner. My goodness, your shoulders must be broad.
You know, it takes the whole team. And so as much as that is the list of my responsibilities, everything that I do, it gets done through the team. A lot of people see leadership in a sort of a triangle or a pyramid. I flip that upside down and I see my job as the bottom. I am the foundation. It is my job to make sure that the team has the tools, the resources, training, the budget, and the clear direction to do their job. Every single thing that gets done across the township is spread across a very small and mighty team.
Hey Uxbridge, when I first opened Okamikai Martial Arts and Fitness in September of 1999, we only had a small dojo with tiny change rooms and we only offered karate classes. We now have a 3,000 square foot training facility, and that's not including our spacious change rooms with showers inside Body Fit Health Club. We still offer karate, but we also offer classes in Aikido, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and weapons including Japanese sword. We also have great fitness classes that'll keep you motivated to take your training to the next level. As much as I'm proud of these accomplishments, our biggest success is in our programs for children. We're not just happy with kids winning medals, we want them to win at life. That means increasing their focus, self-discipline, self-confidence, and self-esteem, and not just their self-defense skills. We haven't slowed down in our almost 25 years of operation. We've gotten bigger, better, and we're just getting started. Now is the time for you and your family to get started along with us. Contact us today at Okamikai Martial Arts and Fitness at okamikai.com.
Walk us through a typical day.
There's
Maybe
no
not a Thursday. Not a Thursday, because that's your singing lesson day. Any other day.
That's a great day. So Mondays are council, right? Committee or council. So those days are unique in that we are in chambers, and that's when we're bringing our reports forward to council and seeking their approval on a variety of different things, whether it be policy or procurement. Tuesday through, say, Friday, with the exception of Thursdays, is other duties as assigned. My kids asked me once, "What do you do, Mom?" And I said, I respond to emails and I take meetings and I wait to see what the cat dragged in. Because on any given day, depending on what's happening across the community, it's different. And it depends on what's happening across the teams. On any given day, any one of my department heads might require more support than others. Whether there's an HR matter, all things HR is under my portfolio. Whether it's health and safety, or an IT matter. That's what makes my job so much fun. It's so varied and no day is very much like the others.
What does Uxbridge do well compared to other towns or cities?
We're very entrepreneurial, and I give counsel the credit for that. What's really unique within our municipality is council gives us the breadth to explore non-tax levy sources of revenue, which means we can get really entrepreneurial. So you'll see our museum driving significant amounts of programming and camps, our libraries now offering a variety of different programming. I mentioned to you before we got started about our marriage licenses. So during COVID, we had to find a $1.7 million gap. We didn't want that gap in funding to hit the levy, which means the taxpayers, but we had to close that gap because our arena and pool were closed. And so we found a way to offer marriage services within the provincial framework. And we were, I believe, one of the only municipalities across the province that did so. And so we had people coming from Ottawa, from Thunder Bay, Sudbury, Niagara, Kingston, to get married because they could do so, whereas every other municipality required an appointment.
Do you get to be part of those weddings?
You know, I do, as just for business continuity, in case my clerk or my deputy clerk weren't in the building. I got trained and got the delegated authority to be able to offer to be an officiant. And so I have delivered a few of those ceremonies, and I've used that actually delegated authority to also marry some friends and my cousin to his partner. And so yes, it's a cool perk with the job.
What are we lacking?
Our limited growth prevents some of the investments that the community needs. So for example, our pool. Our pool is over 50 years old, and keeping it open is a challenge because of the renovations and investment that that building requires. Whereas some of our neighboring municipalities have explosive growth, and they're able to use development charges to invest in community buildings. For example, Brooklyn's getting, I think it's $175 million recreation center. And so our limited growth is wonderful because it means we keep that small community feel, but it does affect our ability to reinvest the way other municipalities are able to.
How can we as citizens help you do your job better? In other words, what do you want us to know that can help facilitate positive change?
Vote.
Okay.
Wow.
She
She
didn't
just
even
threw.
stutter.
She didn't even stutter. She just threw Dave right under the bus. She just
Oh,
vote.
Not a chance. Not a chance. You know, I will even give him credit that prior to applying, I watched so many of the recorded council videos because I wanted to know what kind of council I would be walking into. And it was his leadership and a few individuals I know that knew of him personally and his reputation actually that encouraged me to apply. And I'm not just saying that.
Him and I went to high school together, and the only reason why any time we tease him is just because he's just such a great guy to deal with. And so yeah, I just liked how there was no stuttering.
So coincidentally, my next question here on my sheet is, tell us a secret about Mayor Dave. Which obviously won't be a secret anymore.
Goodness, that's a tricky one. He is an incredibly compassionate, caring individual. So he puts on a tough face and he is out there doing the hard work, but he is a very genuine, caring, compassionate person.
So he's a big softie. He's a big mushy puppy.
He's not that big.
Scott. So easy.
It is.
So easy.
Slow hanging fruit.
What's the best
It wasn't
part?
me.
Yeah, it wasn't. Exactly. What's the best part of your job?
I think I said it. It's the people I work with, and it is the community I serve. You know, I have no interest in the bigger municipalities because working within Uxbridge, you get to get so close to the operations. And, you know, I know every single team member extremely well. And the work that we do, you get to see the delivery quick.
And what's the worst part of your job?
Sometimes you have to make the hard decisions. It is my job always to put the municipality first. And so sometimes what's in the best interest of the municipality might not be in the best interest of some employees, for example. I'll use COVID as an example. To close that $1.7 million gap, yes, we found non-levy sources of revenue, but we had to do layoffs. And that broke my heart. And it was exceptionally difficult to have to do that. But my job is to put the municipality first. And so that means making the hard decisions.
Do you deal with flack from residents occasionally? Like Bruce Garrett, when we had him on at one point, he was talking about somebody that was emailing him and getting pretty rough with him, personal.
Yeah.
Do you deal with that kind of aspect of it?
I do. Council is a wonderful buffer. Most residents know that they should escalate through the township, and then if they need to, they will go to their ward councillor or, if necessary, to the mayor. But sometimes, it does get directly to me. And yeah, I certainly do have to deal with residents and or other individuals who come to the township for services that may not be residents. I use marriage as an example. We may have to make some hard decisions that make them dissatisfied, and it can lead to some pretty upset and disgruntled individuals.
We're going to do a rapid fire. These always turn into non-rapid fire though. So if you need to elaborate on a question, please do. Dogs or cats?
Both.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Your favorite color?
Green.
Your favorite voice teacher?
There's
Wow.
only one.
Yeah, okay, good. Just checking. Just making sure she's not cheating on me, that's all. Okay, your favorite member on council?
You want me to get fired?
Okay, we'll pass. Your favorite restaurant in town?
The Vig.
Your favorite, do you eat burgers?
I eat vegan burgers.
Okay, vegan burgers, so it would be the Fig.
Yes.
Does anybody else make vegan burgers in town?
Everyone has something wonderful to offer that is vegan. Every single restaurant I can eat at, but some have vegan burgers and some don't.
Good to know. If you were to change now, you already said that you don't want to go anywhere, but if you were to change careers to something completely unrelated to what you do now, what would you do?
I just love what I do. I haven't actually contemplated doing anything else. I sold my businesses when I was 31 in 2009. And so I've always said I'm one bad meeting away from retirement. And so I do what I love to do, or I wouldn't do it. And so there's no dream job out there that I'm aching for, because if there was, that's what I would be doing right now.
What's your secret superpower? What do you do really, really well that nobody else knows about?
I can read people really well, very intuitive, and I can read people extremely well.
Do you cook?
I love to cook.
If you could speak to one person who's alive right now, who you feel would help you do your job better, who would that be?
Well, Margaret Atwood, but I don't know how she would help me do my job better, but I would just love to talk to her.
Well, then you took away my next question. And if there's one person who's passed away that you'd like some time with?
My grandmother.
Why?
Because she was a massive influence on me, and I miss her very much.
Was she an Uxbridge person or local?
Scugog,
When did she pass away?
2019.
What do you think is your greatest accomplishment so far? And it can be personal or professional.
Well, I have 2 children I'm very proud of. So I would say having 2 functional adult children is helpful.
And what do they do?
So my daughter is right now living in the UK at the University of Plymouth doing a specialization in marine biology, but she'll be back in September to finish her final year at Trent University. And my son is studying computers at Durham College.
What's your greatest regret, you think?
I don't really have any regrets. Sort of my perspective on life is that everything happens for a reason, and even the things that maybe I wish that hadn't happened, I don't regret because they got me to where I am today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, good answer.
What does your husband do?
So my husband, he works for Canadian Nuclear Laboratories as a training specialist, but that's new. So when I had my businesses, he quit his job to be a stay-at-home dad, and he was home for 20 years. So he just went back to work.
So you get to see him more or less now?
All the time now, because he works from home as well.
When you die, and obviously you're going to go to heaven because all good CAOs go to heaven, what do you think God might say to you?
You did your best. I try to be kind. I try to be compassionate. I genuinely care about people in my community, and all the kindergarten rules I live by, and that comes from my grandmother. She had, as I said, a huge influence on me. And so I hope that at the end of my life, I hope everybody says, that she was kind and she did the best that she could.
Well, clearly you have done your best. You are doing your best, and you're giving so much of your time and your passion and your empathy to your service. So we appreciate that. Thank you for being you and for doing all the stuff you do. Like, it's pages and pages of what you do here.
But the majority of what I do is that number 14, other duties as assigned. That's the job.
Yeah, like silly podcasts.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this duty as assigned.
My pleasure. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you for making it casual and fun.
100,000 attempted hacks per day. The Ontario Power Generation gets 100,000 per day. I thought when people got their Facebook hacked, that was a bad thing. Like the 100,000.
And I don't think that many people are trying to hack the Uxbridge Town Council or Mayor Dave. Not with Kristi there. They're certainly not going to even try, are they?
No, but I maybe that's the problem. It's the fact that their security is so tight. But I don't know. I have Mayor Dave's cell phone number. I think personally, maybe we can't hack him or anything, but we could at least prank call him. Mayor Dave, do you need your ducks cleaned? 100,000 per day.
Kristi, thank you so much for taking the time to do that interview with us. It was really educational. I had no idea what a CAO of the township does. And I feel that much better knowing that that really important job is actually in your hands, because you are just a lovely person and the right person for that job.
We talk about all the things that you do. You know, you're doing your music business, you're doing martial arts stuff with me, your mom, your wife. I'm wondering, do you think a guy could be a CAO of a town hall? Like, not to try to be sexist or anything, but we're always accused of not being able to multitask and stuff. And I wonder how many guys roll up to that job.
But that's what I was saying in the overview of what the description is of what her job actually is. Almost just sounds like being a mom, having to just keep it all together and also do it in a very kind, respectful, and honest way. Basically, don't lose your on anybody when you're at work.
Like that. We now don't have to put the fact that we're putting in expletives on our podcast.
I just edited myself with my own sound.
That's not even a beep. That was a Speaking of podcasts, we're going to take a bit of a break. We're actually going on a vacation, and we haven't had done that for 4 years. And actually, last vacation we had, that's when COVID happened. So look what happens when we go away. The whole world falls apart.
So we're really hoping not to have any tornadoes, any worldwide pandemics when we're away. Just nice and calm and cool and collected. And we can rest assured that the town is in good hands with Kristi at the helm.
Yeah. And when we're back, we're doing an interview with Jeff Keeping, which I think is really cool. We should have done this sooner.
Uxbridge is looking to restore the roar, right?
Yeah. They want to bring football back to the high school, and who better to do it but a former Toronto Argonaut? That's fantastic.
In the meantime, do you want to go call Dave?
This has been a Camsel Broadcasting production.
Yes.
Hi, Mayor Dave. Is your refrigerator running? Because you might want to go catch it. Only 99,999 more to go.